I chose to sort of keep the workshop today fairly broad from a focus perspective, because I wanted to sort of go through the key sales challenge that I come across. So I've been mentoring for a number of years now and worked with different businesses on their sales and business development conundrums. And there are some questions that inevitably come back again and again. And so I chose the four main ones to cover today and just give you some tips and my approach to how to sort of go about solving those. So one of the key issues that I come across in both startups and businesses that I've been going for a while is how to approach BD campaign planning. I think the reason why that is because a lot of businesses start with sort of building around their existing network. So when you first sort of launch, you'll get the businesses that people that you already know, people in your network, obvious people, past clients, etc. So you work on that sort of first circle, and you can do really, really well on that circle for quite a while. So you don't actually have to actually do any formal BD campaigns at all. You can just, get business from referrals and repeat business for years and years. But it's the times like at the moment when things are a little bit, unclear, unsure, the market's a bit nervous, and in times of recession, of course, when you realize that you need to work harder on your sales, and then you kind of go, okay, let's do some BD campaigns, and it's about how do you start. So I think that you need to do a proper BD campaign, you have to be strategic. There is no point just going out there and just sending loads of emails, going on LinkedIn and connecting with loads of people. The point of what you're doing should be strategic, and you need to understand who you want to go after and who is your audience. Because if you don't know who your audience is, and I see this all the time when people are creating marketing materials and we look at it and I go, well, who is this aimed at? And they're not actually sure. And when you actually start thinking about who is it aimed at, the marketing materials are wrong. So the most important thing for you to do to take away from this is about strategy and understanding who your audience is, who are your target markets, what their issues are, how do they buy from you in your product, in your market, what they're looking for in terms of reassurance, solutions to their burning problems, and also to think about where they are, where do they hang around? Are they, there's some industries like leisure, for example, there isn't much point sending them a lot of emails because they're not on email in general. That a lot of the day that they're not there. Other people will not ever answer the phone. Like, look, tech companies don't answer the phone. So it's about thinking about how are you going to then approach these audience. So what do they want to hear from you? What should you put forward? And then how are you going to approach them, and how are you going to structure your campaign? What you're actually going to do in the campaign is just the tools, and the tools you use come last. So that the order in which to go at this is to look at strategy first. So what you're selling, what's the product, is it clear in terms of what's the value that it brings, but also the costings of it? Is there ways to productize it to make it a little bit easier for people to buy it, particularly if it's quite high value? Is there a step in, a foot in the door that you can offer to people, first of all? Then you go and look at your marketing materials once you're clear on who it's for, what the products are, and how you're going to present them. Then you look at your marketing materials, your website, which is always really key, because people will look at your website as their first point of call when you approach them. And if your website isn't right, that would ruin your sales. So it's really important to make sure that it's right, and what you send to them is right. And you've got case studies and customer testimonials to get them over the line, and calls to actions and different things like that. So it's important to think of it as a process, because it is. And use your existing experience, because you've been, even if you're a startup and you've only got experience of selling in the past in that industry, if you're an existing, if you've been in existence a long time, you're an established business, look at where you've had success, because you already have sales knowledge in your business and BD knowledge in your business. It's just about looking for it and pinpointing it. So your current clients, How did they buy from you? What were they interested in? What are they interested in now? Why are they staying with you and giving you more business? Why do they like you? All of these things should feature in your strategy, in your understanding. And also, I think it's really important to understand that you've got to keep going. I know that I call it to join the carousel. So when we join the carousel with our new product, we're very excited about it. And rightly so. If we weren't, we shouldn't be doing it, right? But other people will take time to join your carousel. They're going to take time. People are busy. They get a lot of the amount of kind of outreach that's happening is grown massively in the last 15 years, and with email, with LinkedIn, almost every new way that people find to approach other people is then copied by others and become a very busy place. So people are busy and they are getting a lot of other approaches from different businesses. It's just to be realistic and don't expect people to come back to you. Even within the first couple of campaigns you do, you almost expect it to be quiet if it isn't wonderful. But generally, it does take time to get people to sort of react and come back to you. So it's about experimenting in different things that you may have not done in the past, and thinking about the clients. So putting yourself in your target market's shoes. When is their busy period? What would they be sort of looking at right now? What would make them move forward? And be bold with it. Try different things. Obviously, all to fit with your brand language and what you're comfortable with. But I think it's important not to take these things to heart too much, and to be persistent in a really polite manner. So you don't want to be annoying. You don't want to send people 1,000 emails a week. I don't think that works. Some people do it. I don't think it works. You want to try different methods as well. Maybe contact them in different ways. Maybe email them and then call them and then connect with them on LinkedIn. Try different things to really try and immerse your brand in them, so they see it everywhere. And test and measure. So, make sure that you write down everything that comes in. Look at different levels of leads. If you had somebody say, that sounds interesting, but it's not for us, that is still interesting to understand why it's not for them. If you had people open your email and look at it, you can see and click on different things and you can see who they are. That's, again, it's a low level lead, but it's still a lead. If people connecting with you on LinkedIn, these are all sort of good startups. If people are asking for more information, all of that is great because they're showing some interest. So, just develop it, be patient with it, I think is quite important. So get a strategy together, understand your audience, make sure your product is there, is right, is represented correctly, create your marketing materials, make sure everything is there, ready to be sent, the website is ready, and then go for a campaign. Plan what activities you're going to do in what order, and keep going with it and measure and test everything that you do. So that's top tips for starting a BD campaign for me. So let's go to the next question. The second issue that people talk to me about is how they move leads through the funnel quickly and effectively. And the biggest problem people are finding is moving the lead from a point of view of when people have shown interest. So you've gone to a networking event and spoke to a number of people there about different things that they that you do, and you found a great connection and you've had a great conversation, and you come back and you connected on LinkedIn and it's all looking hunky-dory. But how do you actually approach them to sort of try and move this forward to become a prospect? So, a lead is someone who's shown interest. A prospect is someone that's actually talking to you about buying something and asking for a proposal. A lot of people find it quite hard to sort of move it on from the top of the funnel where they sort of put stuff in the hopper to actually move it further down the funnel. I think there are certain blockages in the funnel. One is that one I've just described, when somebody has shown an interest, but you're not sort of knowing how to approach it to make them to turn them into a prospect that would actually asking for proposal and being able to sort of get further conversations. Another really key area is when you've actually given somebody a proposal and they have and they've now ghosting you, so they're not coming back to you. You don't know what's going on. You've followed up a few times, but you're not hearing, so it's kind of stuck at that proposal stage. So those are the two sort of key blockages that people talk about, sort of being able to move people on. So some tips from me. So I think a really key one here is to understand what the client buying journey is and where they are at. When you meet people for the first time or you speak to them for the first time, I appreciate that if it's a networking event and you both sort of introducing each other about your business and sort of talking about different challenges, you might not want to go into a full mode of asking loads of difficult questions and sort of probing. If that is the case and you're just trying to sort of build a bit of a relationship, I would always try and book another meeting, a coffee or something, to be able to discuss things further. Because the most important thing when it comes to developing leads is data. So if you know what the person wants, then or you understand how they're buying, where they are on their journey, how big is the issue for them? Are they actually going to do anything about it, or it's just one of those where they like to moan about it? Have they actually got any budget? Who else is involved? All of these things really matter for you to be able to move the lead forward. So if you've met with somebody and the interest seems to be sufficient, so you kind of ask yourselves questions like, are they in my target market? Is the product that they need or the solution they need something I offer? Do we share values? Do we seem to be in the same sort of on the same page? Those kind of questions are more for yourself to kind of ask yourself as an initial qualifier, because often I think the fact that people don't respond that much and you don't get that many conversations, and often if we've had a conversation, we can get a bit excited about that conversation, but we don't actually know that this person is right, that business is right for us. And that, I think, is the most important starting point that you need to do when you talk to people. If all of those questions are a yes and they tick a box, then I think you want to really try and highlight their issue. That is a really important starting point at developing a lead, is understanding what their pain point is. It can be a bit uncomfortable, I guess, sometimes to ask people about, well, why are you finding it difficult, and what is it that makes it a challenge for your business, and how hard is it for your day-to-day job, and does it stop you sleeping at night? Or there's loads of questions like that you can sort of adopt a number of them and use that you feel comfortable with. But it is really key. There is a book called The Mum Test, which is a really good book. If you haven't read that, I recommend it, which talks all about this idea that when you first go out, and this book was written by a startup company, or a guy that owned a technical startup that had this wonderful idea, and he found he was going out talking to people and they're all going, oh yeah, it's a great idea, it sounds excellent, well done. And he'd be coming back to the office thinking, oh yeah, they like me, but then he never got them anywhere and he never sold anything. And so he realized that the fact that people say that is not really any indication of selling. It's just them being polite, as we are to each other. And we can, like your mum would really like it if you came and said, oh, look at what I've invented today, or what I did at school today. It's that same idea. So it's making sure that you break through that initial kind of like, everybody's nice in those networking events and just want to talk, and they're not necessarily really interested. The fact that they, if they ticked your boxes as a company you'd want to work with, even if they don't have a problem right now, they're a good lead. You should put them in your CRM as somebody that you keep in touch with, because if you then send them materials and you let them know about the company, they may well buy from you in the future. So I don't think it's a waste of time. But for you to be able to sort of move things on right now, you need to understand what is the pain, how deep it is, and whether it is at a place where they're actually going to make a change because of it. So remember that most sales fall through 70% because of status quo. People want to stick with the status quo. They don't want change. They don't like change. And if you're offering a technical product or a big solution that's different, you've got to remember that you think it's the best thing since sliced bread. But for them, they're looking at it and going, "Oh my God, we're going to have to train staff. We're going to have to, update our computers. I don't know, whatever it is that they need to do to be able to use it. It's a change." And so it's understanding whether that piece of pain they've got, whether that problem is actually big enough to beat that status quo, and for them to actually go, "Okay, you know what? We're going to go out. We're going to look for a solution, and we are going to change what we do." And that's quite a big ask for most businesses. So that's why the qualifying of every opportunity is so key. With most people that I come across who ask me this question or tell me people are ghosting them, if we look at the process, we always find out that there was no qualification of the opportunity. So essentially, they've kind of gone and they peaked too soon. They got them a wonderful all singing, all dancing proposal, sent them a load of videos and brand materials where the person isn't actually buying at the moment. So you completely miss the mark. And now they feel uncomfortable because they were just being nice and interested in your business. And now you're trying to sell to them. And people then, I don't know if you can identify with that, but often it can be very frustrating. You think you've got this sale, you've come away thinking wonderful, you send all this stuff, and then the person disappears. It can be very, very, very annoying. So, so I just think that that's something that you really need to be aware of. Is did you actually qualify that opportunity? Did you go through the process with it, and asked all these questions to make sure that the problem is actually something they're going to do something about? In your mind, I think you need to know three things. You need to know what the problem is. Do they have a budget to solve it? And who else is involved in the decision making? And I suppose a fourth thing would be the timeline. So if you know the timeline, the people involved, do they have a budget, and you understand the problem quite well, then I think you can safely say that you could move that down the funnel quite well. And and you follow up, be persistent. As I said already, that's quite important with the sales and BD development, is to be persistent with it in a really, really professional and polite manner. Always ask, when should I call you back if I haven't heard from you? Is it okay to give you a call in 2 weeks if I haven't heard anything? And all of that sort of builds into a really clear sales process that sort of fits and gives you that sort of, the next step, using different touch points. So if somebody, 1 week you could email them if they haven't come back, maybe try on LinkedIn, maybe text them, maybe call them, try different things. If you've had that time agreed with them, that gives you quite a strong sort of traction point to sort of say, look, we spoke a couple of weeks ago, you said that it would be good to catch up now, I'm just trying to get hold of you. And there's and just sort of keep it as a process. I will talk about following up a bit more in a minute. So that is my top tips for developing opportunities. So the third issue I chose to bring today is follow-up. And that is my favorite topic in the world. I don't know if you know anything about what I do, but I own a BD agency. So a lot of what we do in the agency is help people with follow-up, because most companies don't follow up, and a lot of people take it very personally when people don't come back to them. They almost feel like they don't like them, or they take it very personally, or they think, well, if they haven't come back to us, they're not interested. And it couldn't be further from the truth, because as we said already and we established already, people are very busy. Most people these days do what used to be 3 people's jobs in the past. So we really do put pressure on people in organizations, and they just don't necessarily have the time to talk to you. You're not their priority necessarily, even if you're solving a problem for them. That isn't the only thing they're dealing with, and that's something that people need to be mindful of. And the fact they haven't come back to you doesn't mean they don't want to talk to you. In fact, before I launched my business, 9 years ago, I actually did a survey with buyers who said that they were more interested in salespeople who followed up with them because they reminded them and put them back on the agenda because they deal with a number of things. They really were pleased when people were following up because it helped them to sort of, reminded them to get back to them. So that's a thumbs up from the people you are following up with. So in terms of tips, I think that we already talked about the 4 things you have to know about an opportunity, and one of it was the timeline and who else is involved. You at this stage when you're following up, you should be in a place where you understand they got a problem. B, it's big enough for them to be launching a buying process and they are looking for a solution and have a budget. And C, you understand what they're looking to do, in what time scale, and who else is involved. You don't have to know absolutely 100% of everything because you never do, but you hope that you would know, the key elements of these pieces of the puzzle. So essentially, you're able to break down the journey. So you've sent a proposal, and personally, I wouldn't recommend that you send any proposals to anyone until you've understood all of these things. You could send them materials by any means after you spoke to them and had an initial conversation. You can send them, general brand materials about the product, case studies, etc. Yes, absolutely. But I wouldn't go and do a proposal and put all the work that's involved in that unless you understand all of these components of the situation. So that's the first thing to sort of be clear on. And then sort of break it down. You've sent a proposal. The first thing you do within 48 hours is just following up, making sure they've had your proposal, it's all clear, and there isn't any initial questions at this stage. Then you can sort of say, okay, great, I'm really pleased. How long do you need to look at this? When shall I get in touch? You could even be bold and see if they book a meeting with you to discuss this once they're ready. If they say no, that's fine, but you can sort of build a timeline into it. Then you've got your sort of next one where you're calling and you want to see whether they've had a look at the proposal, where they are with it, who else is involved at that stage, and what's the next stage from their perspective in terms of the buying process. And then agree again, when should you speak again. When it comes to about 4 or 5 times that you've spoken to people, so a couple of months has passed, depending on the product you sell. I mean, obviously, if you sell a product that's more transactional, you wouldn't necessarily have such a long process. But the idea